island called Astypalia. This is a very beautiful island located technically in the Dodecanesa group of islands, but it's famous because it looks more like an island from the Cyclades. And this island of Astypalia is amongst one of the smallest islands I've ever visited. And while on the island, I stayed in the main town, which is simply called Hora, as many main towns on islands are called. Now, most Horas are very busy, cosmopolitan places with many tourists and a lot of nightlife, but the Hora on Astypalia was quite different. This Hora had 3 restaurants, 1 periptero, or a little stand for snacks, and 1 or 2 quiet little cocktail bars. And one night, my brother and I went out into Hora for dinner, and then we decided to get a drink at one of these little cocktail bars. We were the only 2 people in this bar, of course, so the owner of the bar, who was a local man from Astypalia himself, came and he sat down with us. He was asking us about life in America, and of course we were asking him about life in Greece and Astypalia. And this bar owner was a very a happy man. He was upbeat and telling jokes and just very outgoing. He was a happy-go-lucky guy. But then all of a sudden things changed. The bar owner suddenly became very serious. He looked out from the little counter where we were sitting, and there was a group of 2 or 3 Greek guys walking up the only road in Hora here. And as they walked by the cocktail bar, they stared daggers at the bar owner, and the bar owner stared daggers right back at them. Thankfully, nothing more than this happened, and the guys kept walking, but I had to ask the bar owner what this was all about. And the man explained to me that this group of guys who walked by were from the other side of the island. And people from the other side of the island did not like the people from the Hora side of the island. I thought he was joking, but he was actually being very serious. I guess the people from the village on the other side of the island don't like the people from Hora because they are big city people, spoiled by tourism. And the people from Hora do not like the people from the other side of the island because they're simple village people. And now this all sounded absurd to me. All of these people were from the same island, a very beautiful island, a very small island floating in the Aegean of Greece. You would think that in such a place, all the people would get along, work together, and enjoy the island life. But it appears that even on a beautiful Greek island, the devil can weasel his way in and make people become enemies. I was so curious about this that I even looked up the population of Astypalia, which is approximately 1,300 people. And now, as an approximation, there are about, on average, 350 families in each parish, and with the average family size being about 3 or 4 people, that means there are about 1,300 people in our church community as well. Now, if 1,300 people on a beautiful Greek island can find a reason to become enemies, then sadly, we can assume that people anywhere can find reasons to become enemies. This is a sad fact of life, and it is nothing new, unfortunately. Today we conjure up stories in the media about how divided everyone is and how people have never been more at odds with one another. But as we know very well, the people during the time of Christ were very divided as well. And that is why the Lord Jesus Christ himself delivers us a message on what to do with our enemies in today's gospel passage. And his message sounds like a simple message, but it can often be a harsh message to hear. We hear today that the Lord is not impressed with the good things we do for our family or friends. He says, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. The real credit we earn with God, then, we come to find out, can only truly be gained when we love our enemies. Now, this might sound like a ridiculous calling from God, to love those and do good for those who harm us. And you might even be thinking about a couple of these people you might consider an enemy in your life right now. But I'd like to point out the fact that there is probably no one who has more enemies than God himself. He sent his only Son to earth to save us, and the people on earth at that time killed him very brutally. Today, more than ever, people take antagonistic stances towards the church, faith, religion, and most of all, God. How often is God slandered in conversations, mocked in movies, belittled, doubted, and we can even say at times resented by many people. Yet he grants these enemies that he has the same opportunities that everyone else has. These enemies of his go on in life, and sometimes it might even seem like they live better lives than we do. And why is that? It is because God is pure love. He is a good God who loves mankind. He is not an angry, punishing God. And even though God himself does not punish in this life, we take it upon ourselves to punish our enemies, perhaps to slander them, perhaps to get even with them, perhaps to ultimately defeat them. But if God himself does not punish his enemies, then why should we? If you and I lived on Ostipalia, and I was from Hora, and maybe you were from the other side of the island, I would hope that we could still sit down at one of the restaurants and peacefully enjoy a meal. And certainly if we are all members of the same church, I would hope that we could work together not for competition or personal glory, but for the well-being of our church itself, to allow the church to continue its ultimate work, which is bringing the message of God and Jesus Christ to all people. So let today be the day we stop wasting our time and burning on our enemies. Let today be the day we act a little more like God and love our enemies. Because even a beautiful Greek island can be quite a nasty place if we are caught up fighting enemies. So let's make the places that we live beautiful places. Dare I say, perhaps let's even make the world a beautiful place by simply loving our enemies. Amen.